Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you had a wonderful week and that you were able to build beautiful, powerful dashboard web apps. In this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through the Dash DataTable conditional formatting. I created an introduction to Dash DataTable video a few months ago, which you can see up here if you need a refresher. But for the last 4 months, Dash has really made a lot of enhancements to the Dash DataTable and the different things you can do with it. Specifically to the conditional formatting section. There are so many features and so many things that you can do with a Dash DataTable, which makes it a very interactive, fun data component to work with. I'm going to teach you some of the highlighting or formatting features that are on this page. So if you want to read more about the different formatting features or the different things that you can do with a Dash DataTable, definitely go and open this link, which is under the video, so you can learn even more. But I'm just going to focus on several, not all of them, to introduce you to the power of the conditional formatting in the data table. We're going to see things like how to highlight the 3 lowest values of a column, how to highlight a full row depending on a column value, depending on Canada. We're going to see how to highlight values of a column between 40 and 60 or any number that you can choose. And we're going to highlight empty cells. We're going to add stars to a new column depending on values in a different column. And also we're going to see how to create this data bar and a few more objects like bolding and stuff like that. So we're going to learn a lot of things. What I would ask you to do is pay attention to the syntax. Pay attention in the code when we use dictionaries, when we use lists, when we use regular parentheses, because that once you know the syntax, it's a lot easier. I'm also going to go over that syntax and give you like a cheat sheet that you can download below the video, so you can remember the most important things that are relevant to the Dash DataTable in this app. This is taken also from the Dash website. I just do a summary of all this information. Okay, so before we jump into it, the data we're going to look into, or the data we're going to use, is fake data of medical supplies. And we have columns of serial number, we have machines, everything on the data table. I don't think I used this column. We're going to have feedback, when the machine part was sent, when it was received to our company, by our company, how many days passed by, and the original supplier. So this is all going to be a part of the data table, and this is the code that we're going to use in order to create this Dash web app. If you have any questions, please go into the YouTube under the comments, ask any questions you have, comment anything. If you saw I made a mistake, let me know. If you need me to improve something, please let me know. This is the only way I learn. And don't forget, subscribe to my channel, hit the like button if you want to see more videos every week on the Dash data table or any other components in order to create these beautiful, powerful dashboards with Python alone. All right, let's jump into it, everybody. The first thing you want to do is import your libraries, okay? These libraries are necessary to create this Dash web app. If you don't have Dash, just pip install Dash inside your terminal right here, or in your command prompt on your computer, so you can have Dash. You will have to also pip install plot. No, you don't have to. This comes with Dash. You would need to pip install pandas if you don't have pandas. Dear old pandas. We always work with pandas. Okay, so assuming you pip install Dash, you pip install pandas, you just import these libraries and let us read the CSV document, this document. Let's read it into a pandas data frame. And then we're just doing some basic data, playing around with the data, not manipulation, but changing the data. We're just going to change the part sent date and the part received date, these 2 columns. We're just going to change it into a pandas, convert it into a pandas datetime object or value. So we're just doing that, right? We're going to change it to date. I do dd.date because I just want to see the date. I don't necessarily want to see the time here as well, like the timestamp, just the date. And then this we'll go over later. This is what creates the stars in the column right here. All right, so we start our app. We all know how to start our app, and then we have to open the layout. The layout is everything that's going to be on the page. So it's from the main div all the way down here to the end, right before the callback. Okay, the Dash data table, you call the data table, you give it an ID so you can tie it back to the callback at the very end of the video. I'll show you how to do that. And then just simply you call the columns. So you use the column attribute, and we're going to use most of the columns inside the pandas data frame. We're going to give it a name. This is the name that the user will see on the app. SN is what the user sees right here, SN. But the ID is what you need to remember. Is the ID that belongs to the pandas data frame, is the ID that belongs to the CSV document. So the ID should be the exact same IDs as you have in the header of your Excel sheet or in the pandas that is a pandas data frame. So ID is serial number. We're always going to have a type. So I'm going to put numeric to this one because it's a numeric. Obviously it's a number. Country is going to be text, and dates are going to be date time. And then editable, I think by default is true, I can't remember, but I added it for tutorial purposes. And then two columns are going to be false. The machines are not going to be editable, and the prioritizer is not going to be editable. All right. Then we're going to go into the data. We just type df to dictionary, the records, and then you have everything, all your data inside the data table. And now we're going to focus on the style data conditional. So this is an attribute part of the data table, which allows us to do all this type of formatting that you see here. This attribute, where is it again? The style data conditional has a way of writing things. You can read more about it inside the filter syntax. I'm going to add this link below the video, so feel free to go in there. This is just the overview of the Dash data table. I think it's this right here. Oh no, it's not that, right here in reference. Let's do the reference. It's right here, the reference, and let's look for the Dash style data conditional, and you'll see this attribute belongs to the data table, and it explains exactly very well how to use it inside the Dash data table. But I'm going to explain everything right now through the code, so hopefully if you don't understand this, it becomes clearer. All right, so the style data conditional attribute has a certain way of writing the conditional statements inside of it. You can actually, in some cases, you can write the conditional statement just inside a list. Oops, just inside a list, or just like, I think it could be one dictionary inside of a list. I would recommend, these are like short ways of doing it. Shortcuts, don't do that. I would recommend always doing it in this syntax where you have a parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you have dictionaries. You have lists, right? A list here, and then you have another list. You combine it with a plus symbol, and then you have inside the list, you have dictionaries. So in other words, it looks like this. And this is very, very important to remember. Please, this will save you a lot of time in formatting your Dash data table. Remember the syntax. Have a parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you'll have a list. This is most of the time you're going to use this, only this. You probably won't need any of this. But this is the if conditional statements will go inside dictionaries, if blah, 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 and if blah, blah, blah. Okay, and the dictionaries inside the list are separated by commas, but the lists are separated by plus symbol. Okay, so very, very important to remember this. And now we're gonna if you don't understand, we're gonna look into the code here below, so it'll be a lot easier to pick up, and it'll become a lot clearer what I'm trying to explain. Okay. So we're opening this parentheses, right? This is a main parentheses that wraps everything. And inside, we're going to have our first list. Inside this list, we're going to have dictionaries separated by commas. Each dictionary is going to be a conditional statement, an if conditional statement. And the if conditional statement has a dictionary of its own with keys and values, right? Like any dictionary, you have keys and values. The if dictionary, the if statement, has this keys, and we're going to go over all these keys in the Dash data table. You can use a filter query, you can use a column ID like we're using here, filter query and column ID. You can use a column type key, row index key that we use below. And these give you the capability to format your data table in many different ways. So let's go over the first key in the first formatting dictionary. So we have our list inside the parentheses, and then we have our first dictionary with the if conditional statement, and we're going to use if as the key, and the value is going to be a dictionary, and inside this dictionary we're going to have another key, and that's going to be filter query and this value. And pay attention to how I'm writing this value. This value I'm saying is if the elapsed days column, the data inside the elapsed days column is bigger than 40 and the same data is smaller than 60, then the background color is going to be hot pink and the color of the text will be white. So that is how we get this. If the elapsed days column, as you can see here, is bigger than 40 and smaller than 60, as you can see here, above 40 but smaller than 60, then it's going to be, the background color is going to be hot pink and the color of the text is going to be white. Because I put column ID here, which is another key inside the if dictionary, because I put column ID elapsed days, which refers to the column, it's only going to highlight the cells inside this column. If I took this out and I do not use column ID here, it will actually highlight the whole row of those values. Right? So now 41, 41, 57, anything between 40 and 60 is actually highlighting the whole row. So this is important to remember. Column ID will allow you to highlight only the cells inside a certain column. If you hashtag this out, then it highlights the full row. Okay? So now we have another dictionary, and let's do a second conditional statement. In this conditional statement, remember the syntax. It's a dictionary. Inside the dictionary, we have an if with a dictionary of its own, and outside of this, we have the formatting features or results. So here we're saying if the filter query is the key, if the country column or the data inside the country column equals Canada, if the country inside the data inside the country column equals Canada, then the background color is going to be yellow. So before we used the name yellow or the name of the color, now we're just using the, what do you call it, with hashtag, it's hex, I think. I can't remember how you call it, but you can use this formatting of color, and this is yellow. But you see how it's highlighting the whole row because I did not put column ID. If I wanted to highlight only Canada, then I will put down here column ID, copy paste, and I will put this down here, column ID. Oops, where do we go? Country, right? Column ID country, and this should tell us that it would only highlight Canada instead of the whole row. Let's see it refresh. Oops, didn't do that correctly. That is not in here. That is actually in here. See, it's very important to remember the syntax and the location of each thing. Did you need a comma here? Because if not, it won't work. So we put this inside the if statement, and now because we have the column ID, it's only going to highlight the cell. Cool. All right. So let's go to the third statement. We're still going to use filter query. We're still going to use this key, and we're going to say we're going to compare columns. Right now we just did information inside one column. Now we're going to compare between two columns, and we're going to say if the filter query is the key and the value is if the part sent date is bigger than the part received date. So if the cells inside the part sent date is bigger than the cells inside the part received date, meaning if it's more recent, right, then only highlight, then do this, but only to the cell of this column, only to the cell of the part sent date. So you're going to highlight, you're going to bold the text and bold it in red, right? So that's why you have this in red. And this is a very, very useful feature because here I'm saying the part received date should always be received after it's sent, right? Unless you live in a parallel universe and time works differently for you, you should only receive the part a few days or a few hours after it was sent. In this case, we see there's an error in the data table because it was sent, the date sent actually came after it was received. So it doesn't make sense, it's an error. We want to highlight this error so we can fix it. And then change a different, give a different date to it, maybe 07 11, right? And now you'll see that it's not highlighted because there's no error anymore. Let's refresh, and it goes back to the original. Okay, so this was a conditional statement. This is cool because you can compare between columns. There's so many cool features with the Dash DataTable. It's just so fun to teach this type of component. And I want to thank Dash Plotly team for just having put so much information and so much time in creating this beautiful feature for you and for us. Okay. Format empty cells. So here we're actually gonna use the is blank statement. All right. We're going to still use the filter query, and here we're going to say if the data inside the original supplier column is blank. Original supplier column is right here. So if the data is blank, there's nothing in there, then only highlight the cell inside this column, and we're going to highlight it. The background is going to be gray. So that's why it's gray, like right here. Okay. Filter query. So filter query has, we saw that we used is blank, we saw that we used bigger than, and we saw that we used equal. So there's different ways you can use operators inside the filter query. All right. Most people will probably know how to use equal and bigger than. You will probably know what the symbol means, but there's many more symbols in the filter query, and this is right here. Many more operators. These are the operators from the Dash documentation. You can also use contains, but if you use contains, you can say, for example, if this column cell, let's see, blue dash P, if this column cell contains blue, if the word contains blue, then do something with the information. So if you use contains, you just got to make sure that you use it with as a string and not as a normal integer or not a string. So these are some operators, show you how to do it. You can use date start with. You can also say if a date starts with a certain date, then highlight or do whatever. You can say is nil, not null, is nil, is blank. There's many different things you can do with this. If you want to see all the other options of the operators, just click inside this link, and you'll see a plethora of different operators that you can use with a data table. Let's see here, for example, you go just down a little bit, you'll see filtering operators, equals, bigger than, equal. You can use date start with. You can use wording like GE, greater and equal, or equal, and so many more. So just feel free to open this and look this over to see all the other options you have with the filter query operators. All right. So we went over the filter query operators. We did the last one is blank. Do we have another one? No. Now we're going to go over a new key, the column type. Remember, there is 5 different keys, right? Or 6. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different keys inside the if conditional statement of the style data conditional attribute. So we saw filter query, we saw the column ID. Now we're going to see column type. Column type is usually used for these purposes. We're going to have another dictionary, and we're going to say if the column type key is the value is text, and these are the options that you have, text, any, date, time, then text aligned to the left. You can do highlight, you can do whatever you want, change the color or bold it, but we're going to text aligned to the left, and that's why when you go in here, you see that any text in the whole data table, if you have text, it's aligned to the left. You see how this is to the left and the date is to the right. This text is to the left and this text is to the left. Usually that's what how you read data table information. Text is aligned to the left, and numeric values or dates are aligned to the right. Okay, so we use column type. Another key inside the if conditional statement is a row index. Row index I actually really like. It could be very convenient because it allows you to choose a certain cell in a certain column, like any cell, regardless of a conditional statement. You just say if in this column ID, if in the feedback column, the row index is 0, So it's more like where instead of if, but it's written with if. So in feedback, where the row index is 0, which is this is 0, 1, 2, 3. So if I want to highlight this or do anything with this cell, I just put row index 0 in column feedback, and then I change whatever I format it, however I want to format it outside of the if dictionary, right? But inside the main dictionary. So I'm adding purple, white, and bold. So this is 0, but let's say I want to do highlight, I don't know, India here. So this would be country column, and India would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So to do country and 6, we'll just do country, and then we'll highlight index 6, and this should highlight as soon as it refreshes this one, right? Germany, wait. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, Germany. So this is row index. So this is great because you can really highlight anything you want regardless of if conditional statement. So that's the row index. The last two keys we're going to go over are state and column editable. So here as well, you have a dictionary, and inside that are separated by commas. Remember, the dictionaries are separated by commas. And you say if the key state is active, you can have active or selected. I couldn't see a difference between active and selected. I'm sure there is a difference, but if you find out what that difference is, please add it to the YouTube comments for me and for the rest of the Dash community so we can know. But we're saying if the state of any cell inside the Dash data table is active, make this color background and then make it a 3px solid. So I think this color is bluish. So you can see that if I click on something, it's a blue 3-pixel border around the cell, right? This one or this one or this one. So it's really cool because it allows you to visually makes it clear that you're editing or doing something with this table. You see how the data didn't change because this is a data type is dates, and I'm putting text in there so it wouldn't change. All right. The last if conditional statement is inside this list is if column editable is the 6th key that you can use. If the column editable is false, there's only false or true, right? Because this comes from right here. Is it editable or is it not editable in the column attribute, right? So here we said that there's 2 that are not editable, the machines column and the prioritized column. So we're saying if column is not editable, then cursor is going to be not allowed. So now if you go over the cursor, you'll see that you see how the cursor is like a mouse and you can do whatever with it. But if you go here, it's this symbol of the cursor, which is like a, a circle with an arrow inside of it, a line, showing you that you can't really do anything with it. Same thing with prioritize. You can't really do anything with prioritize. I don't want it, it's not editable, so you have this cursor with a circle and a line in it. Okay, so this is one list, right, of all the if conditional statements. But sometimes you're going to have an if conditional statement inside a list comprehension, right? Because you're going to have to use for I in a certain column, or you're going to have to use a list comprehensions for many different examples. So list comprehension is obviously another list. So very important, probably the most important part. If you have another list inside with dictionaries and conditional statements inside your style conditional attribute, make sure that the lists are combined with a plus function, right? A plus symbol. You have to add plus. Dictionaries inside a list are separated by commas, comma here, comma here. Here there's a comma, but lists are separated by the plus symbol. So remember that, please, because that's I got stuck. It took me a while, but now you know. So now we have another list with a plus symbol, and we're going to highlight the bottom 3 values in a column. This comes from the Dash code, and I'm just saying if we're going to use a filter query again. First of all, we're going into the list, and we're saying for I in the DF machines that the smallest 3 values, so we have only 3 times, we're going to see 3 I's, and we're going to say filter query, we're going to say in the machines column, in the machines cell data, if the machine cell data equals this I, right? Because we're formatting this. It's a string format. If it equals this I, one of these three, then background color is going to be this color, and the color of the text is going to be white. So you see the background color is bluish, light blue, and the text is white. Because these are the three lowest values inside the dash data, inside this machine columns. Pay attention that here we're using a double curly brackets, and we're using this because we're doing formatting of the string. So usually you just have one curly brackets like you have here if country equals Canada, right? The country is one curly brackets, but because you're formatting, you have to use two curly brackets for the syntax. So remember, syntax is very important. Okay, so we added this list comprehension, and now we're going to add another function to the style data conditional attribute. Now, because we added this function, we have to do a plus, because we don't do commas. We're adding inside the conditional attribute. So we're going to do a plus, and we're going to add this function data bars. This data bars is coming from right here. From table bars, import data bars. This data bar, this table bars.py file is inside the same project folder as my code. The conditional formatting.py code is right here. And inside this same folder, we don't only have the Excel sheet, but we also have the table parse.py. And this table parse.py is just a code that recipe that Dash built for us, which is, you don't have to understand this. It just, you can use this to create these kind of data bars on the side, so it's clearer to see what numbers are higher than other numbers. Here it's clear because everything is aligned from lowest to highest, but it's not always going to be that way. So this feature is sometimes very useful to put these data bars inside numerical columns. But to do that, what I did, I put the function that Dash built for us in a separate Py file, and then I just called it, I just import it by saying from the table bars.py file, import the data bars, import the function, right? And then I'm just going to use the function below. And then I'm just going to say the last thing inside the attribute is going to be data bars. And this is how you use the data bars, just like this. You're going to call it df, and you're going to do it on the serial number column, right? So if I do that, you can see that on the serial number column, there's data bars from lowest to highest, or just represents the values. This recipe comes from, again, the Dash DataTable right here below. There's the data bars, see, right here. So right here. So I just, this data table right here, the bars, and this is how you do it. And I just copy pasted because they created the recipe for us. This one right here. See, all the way to the data bars. And I just put that in that folder. You don't have to put it here. You can put it in the same, all this, you can put in the same con formatting file, like up here somewhere. But so it's look nicer, I just put it in a different file. All right, so we did all of our conditional formatting. One last one that we didn't go over yet is this one, the stars. So in order to, what I'm doing here, I'm creating a new column, a df.prioritize column, and I'm saying apply a function, a lambda function on the machines column, and if that value inside the machine columns, the numerical value is over 3,000, then add 3 stars, right? If it's over 1,000, then add 2 stars to the prioritize column. So you can see here, if the value inside the machines is over 3,000, which is probably this one. No, that's 2,000. That's not. Where is the 3 stars? I don't think we have over 3,000. Yeah, we don't have 3 stars. We'll make that right now. Let's create this one. Let's create 6. Oh, I didn't edit it. It's not editable. But anyway, we don't have 3 stars here, but we have 2 stars. Let's change the data. If the value is over 1,000, then have 2 stars, and if it's over 500, then have 1 star. And that is why you can see here 2 stars is over 1,000, and 1 star is over 500 column. So this is a neat feature because maybe you want to prioritize certain rows or certain countries because they have a lot more machines in them, and you don't want to lose that business or whatever, so you can just add stars. But important to remember, these are emojis, right? So the emojis you want to copy paste into the Dash your code, but make sure that you copy paste them like Dash tells us so nicely from this emoji main web page, because emojis tend to change all the time. So just choose the emojis that you want and just copy paste it into your code. If you want a smiley or you want a fire, just click on one of them, grinning, squinting face, and then copy paste directly into your code like this, right? So now if I save it, instead of 2 stars, I'll have a grinning face, squinting face, and stay right here, right? So just make sure to use this web page because emojis change, and this web page is necessary to copy paste from. You might need to use this in the top of your codes for it to work, and like it tells us, some machines will render the emoji differently, but it shouldn't be too different. It should be look pretty similar. Okay. So we did this. We learned how to include emojis inside a separate column. And we did all the if conditional statements. Before I go into the callback, so you have a refresher, I want you to view this. We went over, this is for you, it's under the video, so just make sure to keep it in case you need to focus on the most important things. But remember, these are the different filter query operators. Remember, you can go into this website for more operators web page. If you want to highlight a row, remember to take out the column ID. So if you have the column ID inside the if conditional statement, it would only highlight or format the cell inside that column. If you take this out, then it will format the whole row of that cell. Then if you want to see different colors that CSS has, instead of writing red, yellow, or hashtag, whatever, then you go down here to this column, you'll see all the different hex values and the colors that you can use that Dash can understand and implement, okay? Below the colors, these are, we went over the emojis, and always remember the syntax, okay? Always have a parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you will most likely just have this. You will have a dictionary with, a list with different if statements inside a dictionary, right? But if you're going to add more things to it, like a list comprehension with a dictionary, like this with if x in df blah blah blah, then you need to add the plus symbol. And right here as well, if you're going to add a function, you need to add the plus symbol. It's not separated by comma, it's separated by the plus symbol. All right, I hope you enjoyed this, and this was very enriching for you, and you can do a lot of beautiful things with your Dash data table. If you manage to format your different cells in a beautiful way, I'd love to see it. Please send it to me, and I'll take a look. And I always like looking at different data tables and all the different ways that people format the cells and the rows. Okay, so for those who need a refresher, the callback. What we're doing here in the callback, here at the very end, we're adding inside the layout, but outside of the Dash data table. The data table ends here, as you can see in the top left. And then we're adding a div with a graph, right, with this ID. And what we're doing is we're going to say, take the my data table component ID, which is my data table, and take the property derived virtual data. Derived virtual data is just one of the properties that the data table has. So take this property and do something with it inside the function, and then return a figure that we're building inside the function into the output. So where exactly are we returning this? We're returning this into the component ID my bar. Inside here, we're going to return the figure. So we're going to turn this information inside the figure, which goes inside here. So it has to be in a dictionary format. Okay, so how we're building this figure, what we're doing is we're taking the row data. Row data is just a name. You can call it whatever you want, which refers to this, right? this argument refers to this input. We're taking the row, the derived virtual data, calling it row data, and we're saying if the row data is none, because when it first renders it's none, then just take the df, the normal data frame that we have at the very beginning, right? Just the original df. And we'll call it, if it's none, take the df, and we'll just call it df data table. But if it's not none, it changed, or it was a data table was updated, then put this new information, new row data of all the data table into a pandas data frame and call it df data table. So regardless if we have information or it first rendered and we don't have information, we have a df data table, and inside the df data table we're going to build the plotly expressed bar graph. We're going to use this data frame, and the x is going to be a country and the y is going to be machines, and then we're just going to return the figure. So that is how, and that is why when you reload the page, it just returns a regular df right here. But if you change the data, this is taking the machines column and the country column. So if you change country to, let's say, to Brazil, right here, to Brazil, and right here, you will see, oops, Brazil, enter, enter. You will see that now we have Brazil here in the middle, a new x-axis item with 1,000 something machines. Germany has a few more, and India has a few more, and we have Canada here below. So it's a really cool feature. There's a lot of things you can do with the Dash data table. I hope you learned a lot from this video and this tutorial. We'll go over more data table tutorials in the near future, because there's just so much you can do with a Dash data table. It's just so powerful. And I hope you enjoyed. If you did, click the like button, subscribe below so you can see more videos about dashboards in the web app and these powerful things. And always remember, we're better together, so help each other out, keep practicing, and never give up. Have a good week. I'll see you later.